What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. I'm your host, Max Torres, publisher and lead editor of Ducks Digest, covering the Oregon Ducks for Sports Illustrated on Fan Nation. And in today's episode, we have some recruiting updates to get into, as well as some other Oregon news that has transpired since we last spoke on the podcast. I am joined by the man himself, Dylan Rubenking, a reporter for us at Ducks Digest. He's rocking the Packers drip. If you are watching this on YouTube, how we doing, Rube?
I'm doing great, man. My Packers are number one seed in the NFC, so I had to drip it out a little bit. Got a fresh jacket, Jordy Nelson jersey, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just had to rub it in a little bit.
There you go. And I know before we hit record here, you were talking about some potential speculation that you think Aaron Rodgers might be retiring soon. What about that?
It's not based on any intel, but it's just this feeling. I don't feel like he's gonna pull a Brett Favre and go somewhere else. Having been there through that, I don't think he's gonna leave. So I feel like he'd retire after this year. If they get smoked in the first round of the playoffs, I feel like maybe he comes back. Not that I'm hoping for that, but I feel like if they win a Super Bowl, which is a long shot in my opinion, but if they win the Super Bowl, I think he rides into the sunset.
Well, the Packers are going to have to watch out for my Niners, you know? No, I'm kidding. All right, well, we'll keep tabs on that and see what happens with Rodgers. But let's talk about some Ducks. All right, the main story that we wanted to hop into here, it is transfer portal season, and the Ducks got some big news when former Washington defensive lineman Sam Taki Taimani announced that he would be committing to Oregon. Announced his commitment to Oregon after spending the past 4 years at Washington, but due to redshirting and the COVID season, he's technically only a sophomore, so he should have 2 more years of eligibility in Eugene. But I think this is a big addition for Oregon because I was tweeting you can never have too many 300-pounders, and he comes from Salt Lake City, which is really becoming increasingly known as I guess Utah as a state for producing some really good trench talents. 6'2", 330 out of East High School, where the Ducks also found Ben Roberts. I mean, on paper, it certainly looks like a good addition and a strong pickup for Dan Lanning and company.
I don't remember who was saying it on Twitter, but I remember somebody called him something around the lines of he's a solid slab of beef. Is what I saw. I mean, at 330 pounds, that's kind of Jordan Scott kind of range. Yeah, I was watching some film on him. I've watched him, throughout his Oregon or his Washington career against Oregon specifically. And he is hard to move. That's for sure. I was just watching the Oregon game from this past season, and I gotta say, I think he does his best when he's lined up over the center because he kind of mauled Alex Forsyth a little bit in the middle. So I really like him as a prospect. I think he's only going to grow with this coaching staff, and I think the reason we'll get into it a little bit, of course, but I think the big reason why this is such an important get for Dan Lanning is because you want to establish kind of your footing in the Pacific Northwest. And getting a guy from your rival. I mean, he understands the rivalry already. Getting a guy right from UW, so that's huge.
Yeah, we have Taimani starting 10 games last year for the Huskies, and it's super important, obviously, to get big bodies to fill out the lines of scrimmage in the trenches. I think that's a clear pattern that we're seeing with all these top teams is they have just dudes on both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage. And I think that Oregon's really, had really good offensive line play of late, but we haven't seen the production out of the defensive line that you see from these playoff caliber teams. And with Brandon Dorless coming back, Popo Amavai coming back, Ducks lose KT, I think it's definitely good to get a guy like Taimani on board. Heading into the off season here, right? The 2022 class was a little bit underwhelming at first during that early signing period with only 7 guys signing. But Ducks are making some moves in the transfer portal. Obviously, adding Bo Nix, I think that was pretty big. And then adding Taimani is pretty solid as well. So I like that. And just beefing up the front is always going to be a positive. So I'm going to be curious to see kind of how the rest of the lineup shakes out with guys like Christian Williams coming back. I'm assuming Keon Ware Hudson's coming back at this point, but it's kind of weird as we're in limbo with these guys who could. I think he's another one of those guys that could go to the NFL, but is probably going to stay. But we kind of have to wait for official word. So look for him and trying to think of who else might be in the interior. I think those are the biggest names. Suavapodi is a guy who started to come on a little bit towards the end of the year, and I think that he's only continuing to grow. And you think with Jason Jones moving on to Auburn, this definitely helps fill that void a bit.
Yeah, Jason Jones is one of their biggest bodies on that defensive line. So, you can't always get guys that are 320 and, 330 in that range and have the ability to, disrupt defensive lines. Because a lot of times you see guys who are in that weight range and they're kind of just big bodies that are hard to move, but sometimes they have a hard time getting after the quarterback or stopping the run, getting off of blocks, getting separation. And I think Taimani fills all those boxes. I think he does a really good job at a lot of things. Like you said, I think there's going to be some youth on that defensive line with Grayson Halton if he sticks around. I know he's not signed yet. Sir Mel's is going to be in there as well. So there's going to be some youth. I like Popo and Dorless coming back. I think that's going to be, that's going to definitely shore up that defensive line. But having a guy like Tamani with that much experience in the Pac-12 specifically, that's huge. And working with a guy like Tony Tuioti, who's the defensive line coach, and with Dan Lanning, who obviously developed a guy like Jordan Davis. That's huge.
And then I'm looking at Taimani's stats right now just to kind of give a little bit more context into the kind of player that Oregon's getting. So last year, he totaled 43 tackles, 19 of which were solo, 2 tackles for loss, no sacks. You want to see some sacks from your defensive lineman, but it's not the end all be all stat. 1 fumble recovery, 1 QB hit, and 2 pass breakups. So good to know that he can, get his hands up at the line of scrimmage and bat down some passes. I think that demonstrates some football IQ. Understanding when you didn't necessarily win the rep getting by your guy, but you can still make an impact on the play by getting those big hands up. So I think that's pretty good. And you want to, like I said, not the most impressive of stats, but I think that competing in the Pac-12 and already being a veteran more or less and being a starting caliber guy, I think should make it pretty. I don't want to say easy, but it's a clear path for him to carve out a role here, especially when you consider how Jason Jones was really just starting to kind of find his footing in Eugene, which made the move for me really surprising because I thought he was going to be a dude next year, but his departure, kind of like I said, really opens the door for Taimani to come in.
Yeah, and I think with defensive tackles specifically, guys that play in the middle, you're not usually, especially at the college level, you're not really going to see them put up, 15 sacks, 20 tackles for loss. Like that's just not really, you can't really ask that of them all the time. Some guys are just different, right? But when it comes to a guy like that, I think 43 tackles is impressive. 19 solo is impressive. But from what I was watching a lot of film, he was doubled quite a bit. I mean, they have a couple guys on that defensive line. One of them, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, is a very long last name. But he's one of the more talented defensive linemen that UW had. He got doubled a lot. Taimani got doubled a lot. ZTF got doubled. I mean, that defensive line was just stacked. And so there were a lot of times where he got doubled, especially against Oregon. They doubled him, especially when he was, lining up in the middle with the right tackle and the right guard, which is kind of where he usually sets up camp. He got doubled there a lot, but when he was one-on-one with the center, you saw him win a lot of those battles. So, I'm not really, you can't really ask too much of a guy like him, like Jordan Scott. He never racked up the sacks like that, but you knew his impact, you knew what he could do, you knew his understanding of football and timing and winning every down and every pass rush. So, it's just a huge body that you just love to have up there with that experience.
I was watching some of his highlights from his high school days, which obviously isn't the same now, going against totally different competition. But he played both sides of the ball as an offensive and defensive lineman. Just a guy who is super explosive and quick off the ball. So I think that those are really going to be good skills and characteristics for him to have as we see what Dan Lanning's defense looks like in year one. Um, any other final notes you kind of wanted to throw in here before we move on to our next topic, Dylan?
I just think that it's great that there's been so many former Husky commits that have committed to Oregon, that have transferred to Oregon this offseason. And beating UW this season was definitely, it just a cherry on top. But I just think that this offseason, Ducks fans have a lot to brag about over the Huskies.
Yeah, the Duck fans and Washington fans like to go at it on Twitter, no doubt. But let's get to our next topic. We already knew about the reported hire of Wilson Love from Ole Miss, but the Ducks made it official on Friday afternoon, announcing Wilson Love as the new strength and conditioning coach, head strength and conditioning coach at that, I should say. Looking at a press release from Oregon right now, and have some quotations here that I think could add more to this story. Is from Rob Mullins. Wilson has a strong commitment to supporting student athletes, as well as a track record of helping them develop to their highest potential in all areas. We look forward to his considerable impact on our football student athletes and program, and are excited to welcome him to the Oregon family. Here's some from Dan Lanning on the hire. Excuse me. He said, a quality strength and conditioning program is the backbone of a college football team, and we are thrilled to have Wilson Love lead the way. His ability to connect with student athletes and get the most out of them, both physically and mentally, is very impressive. I am confident he will have the Ducks, rather, ready to compete at a championship level on a daily basis. So, Wilson Love and Dan Lanning reuniting after their time spent together in Tuscaloosa. And I got to watch this really cool profile video that Ole Miss did on Wilson, and he was talking about how you can't fake the energy. When you see these strength and conditioning coaches like Wilson Love, like Aaron Feld, that are going around screaming all the time, I mean, just think of how much effort it would take to fake that. Like, you really got to be about it. And all the players at Ole Miss, really had a lot of good things to say about him. And he's a guy that wants to be guiding his workouts, according to how these guys are going to be playing on the field. Those movements in the weight room should translate to the field. And I just really like this hire for Oregon. Bringing a guy from the SEC, and who's obviously achieved at a high level is going to be a bonus.
Yeah, I think, losing Aaron Feld is it's tough because he's one of the most, if not the most recognizable, strength and conditioning coach in college football. And it's not just because of, his muscles and the mustache. Like, he is as quality of a coach and a strength and conditioning, mind that you're going to find. And Oregon, obviously, they go above and beyond when it comes to preparing their student athletes, taking care of their student athletes. And Aaron Feld was obviously the head of that on the football team. So, and Dan Lanning understands what Wilson Love is about and in that category. And I think that's huge. That Dan Lanning is kind of going back to people that he knows that can, lead in certain departments. Because if you remember his introductory press conference, he was talking about he had a list of people on his coaching staff that he would want to hire. And I feel like Wilson Love might have been one of those that he checked off that list. But having the SEC experience, which there's a ton of it on this coaching staff, that's huge. And Ole Miss is a really talented program. A lot of really good guys on that team, a lot of really good coaches. So probably one of the best guys out there that for this job.
Lots of high profile hires for Dan Lanning. I think probably a lot that would surprise a lot of folks given how young he is. I think that was a lot of the speculation that people had, or criticism even, albeit qualified or not, of Lanning because he was so young. Is, what kind of coaching tree, how extensive is his coaching tree, and is he going to be able to get some of those big names? The fact that he's reportedly going to bring in Tosh Lupoi, I think a guy that has been linked to Oregon for so many years, I think that's huge, and definitely one of the hires that I'm more fired up about. But a final note on the strength and conditioning department: the Ducks announcing that Love's first strength and conditioning staff at Oregon will also include Shad Williams, who was on Aaron Feld's staff at Oregon for the past 4 seasons. And I think that that's really valuable because he's another one of those high energy guys, and someone who's been here at Oregon for the last 4 years, like we mentioned, during the Cristobal era. So it's nice for the team to have some consistency there. And obviously he knows, how these guys work, right? I think just having the familiarity with the players, he'll be able to kind of help, show Love, this is kind of what worked really well. But just the collaboration that you're going to be able to have there, I think, is going to be really fruitful for this team to combine what Shad's been able to learn about Oregon and what worked previously when the Ducks were at some really, really, high levels of achievement. And then, what Wilson Love wants to kind of tweak here as he wants to leave his own mark on this team.
Yeah, and obviously, I think that you can't really replace a head of a strength and conditioning coordinator right away. I mean, they kind of build a culture not just of energy, but how they treat the student athletes, and how they coordinate everything. And so from everything to meals and diets and all that kind of stuff, that's huge. So I think having that stability within that staff, so where that part's not all new, I think that's huge. And especially with so many people coming back on the roster, I think that's a plus, because it's not going to be easy to replace a guy like Aaron Feld, who runs out of the tunnel and is screaming, pounding his chest, rain or shine, 30 degrees or 90 degrees, wearing the same super tight t-shirt. You can't really replace a guy like that. But I think Wilson Love is a guy that can bring that energy, and Shad Williams is a guy that can kind of lead him along and show him the ropes and teach him the culture, and how they've been doing things. And I'm sure he's got some ideas on how to kind of maybe tweak some things, because Oregon, it's not necessarily a fault of the strength and conditioning staff by any means, but they had a lot of injuries on this team. So you definitely think they're going to have that in the back of their minds going into this offseason.
All right, moving on now in this episode of the Ducks Dish podcast to some recruiting updates. We are just about a month, I think a little bit less than a month actually, away from the February signing period for the class of 2022. And then the Ducks are also hard at work in the 2023 class with the new staff hitting the ground running, getting in these guys' ears, these juniors, trying to get them on campus once this dead period ends in just about a week from now. So we have some guys that we've gotten updates on recently over on Ducks Digest. You can read the full updates for all these guys we're going to talk about over on the site. So definitely go check those out. The first one we want to start with is 2022 athlete Arliss Boardingham from Van Nuys, California, out in Southern California, Birmingham High School. Big news for him. He got offered and by the Ducks, that is, and he's going to be visiting the weekend of January 22nd for an official visit. And then he's also going to be visiting Florida. Those are two of the new schools that have kind of jumped into the picture for him. Obviously, really important for the Ducks to get some more offensive playmakers, seeing that they've now lost all their commitments at wide receiver as well as tight end, with Andre Dollar flipping to Washington State. And Boardingham can really do it all. He's a versatile dude. Kind of gets moved around his offense a whole lot at the high school level. And he's a guy that is certainly considering Oregon and has them in high regard heading into this visit. And Dylan, the thing that really not shocked me, but some cool perspective, I was asking him about the coaching carousel. And he was saying, like, I really, it's been good for me, because I think that some of these offers that I've gotten, like Oregon and Florida mainly, he thinks that he kind of grouped those when I was talking to him into those schools that I always knew I could play at, but I didn't know if the opportunity was going to come. So he viewed the coaching carousel, I talked about it in the story, as kind of an opportunity for these coaching staffs to get a fresh look and maybe circle back on some guys that he's missed.
Yeah, and I think his size is something that is going to be missed going into next year for Oregon currently on their roster, because they had a lot of really big receivers like McMillan, to Tyrone McMillan, that a lot of people were looking forward to catching passes. Devin Williams is leaving, that huge body. Boardingham 6'4", 220. I mean, that's a huge target right there for whoever might be throwing him the ball in the spring and in the summer. So that's a huge body, and you like that versatility, right? Is he a defensive lineman?
So yeah, I'm trying to look right now on the story that I wrote with him, because he said he really kind of played a little bit all over the place. I think he said, let me see if I can find it. I think he might have said he plays wide receiver and linebacker, which is kind of just a little bit of everything. But it would make sense that he would probably be on the defensive line. But just having a guy that you can move around like that is going to be super valuable. To your point about the versatility.
Yeah, 6'4" linebacker. That's terrifying. But yeah, that's huge. I have always felt like guys who are those two-way athletes always are kind of a step ahead. Not just because you can put them at multiple different spots, but I feel like that cross training, those different techniques, the footwork, the hands, like I feel like that training kind of goes both ways. And that's huge. But obviously, I feel like at his size and where Oregon's depth is at, if you can bring him in at wide receiver, that would probably be the biggest help.
All right, double checked on that. Wide receiver and middle linebacker, primary positions as a prep in high school. Moving right along here, we want to talk about another guy, 2022 class as well. We are looking at Oxford, Alabama safety Miguel Mitchell. This was a member exclusive story when it first came out. So definitely go, stay tuned to Ducks Digest for some of those big updates. This one's big because Florida is also in the picture for Mitchell. The Ducks need a safety after Landon Holby flipped to Texas Tech. And to circle back to what I was saying about Florida, he's going to be visiting Florida on January 14th. And then it looks like it's going to be a battle between Oregon and USC for that final official visit on January 21st, seeing that he's already taken some official visits, 3 of his visits to be exact. Those trips going to Memphis, Vanderbilt, where he was actually committed at one point, as well as Northwestern right before the early signing day. That led a lot of people to believe that that's where he was ultimately going to sign. But I think this is big for Oregon because he's got experience playing against high level competition. The Ducks have some experience getting guys from Alabama. Mitchell was named the Alabama MVP of the Alabama Mississippi All-Star game. So certainly a guy who maybe isn't the most highly rated, but the body of work speaks for itself. And other schools like Florida are starting to pay more attention.
Well, I think that the fact that they had TJ Dudley and Tanner Bailey at one point, both from Alabama, that's definitely, it's nice to try to bring guys back from that region, and Dan Lanning and that coaching staff. There's a lot of SEC recruiting expertise there. But the one thing that I've noticed a lot with some of these recruits is, among their top schools, is there's a lot of teams, a lot of programs with brand new head coaches, new coaching staffs. Because I've noticed Florida, USC, Oregon, Miami, Oklahoma, like those have been everywhere with offers. And so, the fact that the first 2 guys you've mentioned are both involved with Oregon and Florida is not really surprising, just because it seems like those head coaches and the coaching staffs are just getting on the ground and just getting rolling with recruiting. And with Dan Lanning's case, as much as he can, because he's still, a couple days away from playing in a national championship. So, that coaching staff is doing a great job of trying to get out there and trying to, not just establish the Pacific Northwest like we were talking about, and I know Lanning's talked about, but, sticking to the SEC, where a lot of that coaching staff knows, the area very well. They know the schools very well. And I'm sure Mitchell is a guy that Lanning's looked at for Georgia. I believe I saw an offer from Georgia on there. I am mistaken. But you said he was a former Vanderbilt commit. Is that right, Miguel?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, he was. So, you see some schools in the local area getting involved as well, and obviously seeing a lot of his talents. Last note that I want to add on him is the versatility. I think that's a big thing that we're seeing, in a lot of the best recruits is that they can do a little bit of everything. When I was talking to Mitchell, he was telling me about how Polage was talking to him. He's the one who extended the offer, and they were on the phone for a long time. But he'll be playing safety if he comes to Oregon. That's kind of where they see him fitting in Eugene. But he plays all of the positions kind of throughout the defensive backfield. With Polage saying that he could play nickel, safety, corner. But I could see a little bit more of the need at safety. But at the same time, with Verone leaving and Mikel Wright leaving, DJ James entering the portal, so still some opportunity for him to come back to Oregon. The Ducks are really thin at corner, but I think they're in a great spot with Mitchell as he to maybe get that official visit, before he makes his final decision in February.
Yeah, I think the safety spot seems to be a little bit more shored up. Because I know Trajan Williams is still kind of floating around. He hasn't signed yet, but he's still verbally committed. And then you talked about Bennett Williams, Jamal Hill is still there. I think they've got a bit more veteran leadership. Ryan Addison's probably going to come back as a safety. We'll see about Jeffrey Bossa if they maybe switch him back to safety. I believe that's what they're going to do. Even though, I mean, if you keep him at linebacker, I feel like he'd do a fine job. But yeah, corner, I think that should be probably the priority of not just the secondary, but on the defense because of how young some of those guys are. But maybe that's more of a transfer portal thing, just because there's so much youth that I'm sure they want to develop, but at the same time, bring in some guys who have some expertise. But yeah, it's definitely nice to have some options with where to put a guy that knows a lot of different spots in the secondary.
You talk about corner, Dylan, and just a quick note there. Ducks look like they're still in the running for Jaleel Florence, an elite cornerback out of Southern California, who was formerly committed to the Ducks. He announced that he has a new top five that includes Miami, Oklahoma, USC, Oregon, and Florida. I've seen some reports that he's going to be visiting Miami and Oregon before making his final decision, but he's one of those guys that I want to get on the phone to see if I can maybe get an update and kind of see where his head's at as he, eyes making his decision. I think it's definitely a benefit that Joel Tucker signed, but just wanted to throw that out there to make sure people were updated on kind of some other little tidbits in the 2022 class. We got a couple more guys we want to hit on. Got about 5 more minutes left here on this episode of the pod. And this guy I'm really excited about, Johnny Thompson, 2023 running back out of Oaks Christian in California. That's another Southern California powerhouse. That's where the Ducks found Kayvon Thibodeau back in 2019. With Thompson, a lot of schools really I think he's kind of an undiscovered gem, right? Obviously USC didn't waste any time getting to know him and showing that interest in him. So he's committed there, but the Ducks certainly have an opportunity here. And when I was talking to him after he confirmed that he was going to be visiting Oregon next weekend, I think on the 15th, I believe, just right after the dead period ends, he just started talking a lot about Coach Laughlin, the new running back coach in Eugene. Just really gushing about him and just talking about how they have a great relationship. He's hearing from him every day, and super important for the Ducks to get a running back in 23 because they're not gonna. It looks like they're not gonna end up having one in 2022. Not that that's a need right now on the roster, but certainly looking ahead, you kind of want to prioritize that position. I think if you're Oregon, especially because they only have one commit in the 23 class, and it's a defensive guy. So, God, I think that the Ducks are in a great position here to leave an impression on him and just show him what they have going on in Eugene and honestly display their tradition of excellent running backs.
Oh, I think the 2023 recruiting class for running backs, that group is nasty. There's so much talent at the running back position. And a lot of them are already committed, like Thompson. But from what I was reading from that article, which if you haven't already, go check that out. He doesn't really sound like he's fully, all in. He's not this 110% guy. He's not, my recruitment's 100% closed. Like he's still kind of weighing his options, even though he's verbally committed. Because you were talking about, Oregon's interest, Cal, Nebraska. I think he said he was going to go to Nebraska's junior day as well as Oregon's. So yeah, he's definitely just trying to figure out what the best fit for him is. Doesn't seem like he's 100% sure on USC, but that's kind of the benefit of being a 2023 guy is you have so much time. You can kind of have that commitment, but it's not set in stone necessarily. You don't have a signing day, a couple months from now. But Oregon, I think 2023 is going to be, I think they're going to probably grab one or two running backs because there's so many, and they've been involved with a couple of them, like Cedric Irvin Jr. And Jaden Lemar for quite a while. So I think that's going to be kind of a pot of gold for them. And Dye and Verdell will be gone at that point. Byron Cardwell should still be around. Sean Dollars, I believe, will still be around, and Benson as well.
Yeah, dropping some more tidbits there on other names to keep an eye on. I think Lemar tweeted out that he got reoffered by the new staff at Oregon. So he's a Pacific Northwest guy, like you were talking about earlier, Dylan, how important that has been for Lanning early on in his tenure at Oregon. So that's another guy to watch. Someone else who got reoffered was Trayon Webb. If you guys know him, he's out of the Florida area, former Oklahoma Sooners commit. So Ducks, you got to swing for the fences, especially like you said in 23, where it's still early. I feel like everyone's kind of still within your reach, even though the Ducks haven't had success so much in the Florida area recently. I think that's a state that they should definitely prioritize. But yeah, Thompson's a good one for sure. I was talking to him. He was saying that his coach compared his style to Warrick Dunn, a record-setting running back out of Florida State. Watched some of his film, and it was really fun to watch. And Thompson's got the home run speed. He can block his butt off, which is something you definitely want to have in your running back to keep your quarterback from taking any unnecessary hits. And then he can hurdle guys a lot. That was the cover photo that I used for that one. The dude gets up, kind of reminds me of Zeke Elliott in that regard, just with all the hurdles that you see on his highlight tapes. But he's an energetic and fun guy to watch on the field without a doubt. So Ducks pushing in there. The last guy that we want to talk about, Dylan, is Jaden Greathouse. He's a wide receiver out of Westlake High School in Austin, Texas. The Chaparrals went 16-0 to finish with a perfect record in 2021 and the top team in Texas. If you guys aren't familiar with Westlake, that's where Cade Klubnik also went. 2022 Clemson quarterback signee, and Greathouse is a special guy. 1,274 receiving yards. That's almost 19 yards a pop. 66 catches for 20 touchdowns. And you got to keep in mind, this is going against the top competition in Texas, which is one of the most talent rich states. This is a recent offer for the Ducks that they are trying to, get in early on. And the only visit he has right now that is confirmed when I was talking to him was to TCU, but he said he wants to get out to Oregon, and he's already started developing relationships with Junior Adams and Matt Polage, who we've talked a lot about on this episode.
Yeah, and I know he was very interested in Notre Dame and USC as well. But I thought that was interesting how I read he's a wide receiver, but he was talking with Polage as well. And I feel like that wide receiver safety thing isn't super unheard of because I mean, look at Brian Addison. He went from wide receiver to safety, and Greathouse has definitely I think got that talent and got that those hands especially. I mean, you talk about 20 touchdowns. That's really impressive. But I think it's really cool that Junior Adams is one of their freshest hires, and he's already getting on the ground and building that relationship. And those guys are already talking so highly as if they've been recruiting him for a while. I mean, they have a lot of ground to pick up in 2023 with only that one commit, but the fact that they're talking so highly of these new guys on the staff already is giving me a lot of hope.
USC will no doubt be a name to watch here as well, Dylan. Seeing that some of the recent visits, maybe not so recent, but the visits he's been able to take, Alabama, Texas, and Oklahoma. He had a picture of his visit with Lincoln Riley. So, Lincoln Riley can get just about anybody, at the skill position. Long history of good receivers at Oklahoma. But it's also important. This offer really stands out to me because the Ducks got to get back in Texas. At one point, they had 5 commits in this 2022 class, all from the Lone Star State, and all of them are gone now, either decommitted or signed to a new program. So super important for the Ducks to get back into the Lone Star State, given how much talent is out there. And I think with Greathouse, you have a good opportunity to really get off on the right foot if they can get him on campus. He was talking about maybe getting out there in January before he wants to get out before the dead period in February. It's kind of weird just tracking this recruiting calendar. Another dead period begins in February, but he said if not then maybe March or April. So it sounds like it's a priority for him to hopefully get out to Oregon, and I think that he'd definitely be a big name that the Ducks would love to host to start off this new year.
Yeah, outside of the Pacific Northwest, I think Texas and Florida are kind of the big two states to definitely key in on. In Texas, I think 4 out of those 5 guys that decommitted all signed with schools in Texas because I think 2 of them went to Texas and then 1 or 2 went to Texas Tech, I believe. And I'm blanking on one of the last ones. But I think it's Texas A&M is going crazy in 2022, absolutely berserk. Steve Sarkisian and his staff still seem to be doing pretty well on the recruiting trail. SMU is still kind of in there. Texas Tech is doing their thing. They have a really good staff. So there's so many programs in that area too. Oklahoma, LSU. That is it's definitely going to be tough to recruit against. But this coaching staff has just so much recruiting prowess that I feel like they can get anybody at this point.
Yeah, and then Lanning said as much. He says, we should be able to go get anybody in the country, anybody anywhere in the country, rather. He's really leaned into that national brand, which is what, in large part, I think really made Mario Cristobal so successful at Oregon. I think he was saying something along the lines of Cristobal was when he was here. You go into that, anywhere, any home in the country, and they know, what it represents and the history that comes with it, and just the high level athletics that they put out and produce in Eugene. So I think that's been super valuable. And Lanning's talking about how recruiting really comes down to work. So I think a lot of Oregon fans are ready to tune into that national championship between Alabama and Georgia on Monday, and then certainly ready for Lanning to get to Eugene, and then hit the ground running even more so on the recruiting trail.
Yep, and I think Florida. One of the other reasons why I think recruiting in Florida is so huge is that's where Mario Cristobal is at now with Miami. So, and you already see what he's doing on the recruiting trail. He's posting pictures and taking visits and all that stuff, offering everybody. So, wouldn't it just be nice for this new Oregon coaching staff to get some guys from that state right out of Mario Cristobal's backyard now?
Some big competition for Oregon and everybody else in the SEC or across the country in Florida, with Mario Cristobal returning home to Miami, no doubt. Well, we didn't get to say everything about the updates on this episode of the podcast, you guys, but like we said, you can find those full updates over on ducksdigest.com as well as a bunch of awesome other Oregon content, really starting to ramp up recruiting. Dylan, before we hop out of here, where can people find more of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at DRK Sports News, doing stuff on Ducks Digest all the time. Make sure to follow everybody on Ducks Digest, not just me and Max. We're pumping out stuff from everybody all the time. So anybody that's got Ducks Digest in their bio, make sure to follow them over there.
Absolutely. Dylan's also got some special work, like kind of like a little surprise. We'll just tease it here on the podcast coming out that I think people are really going to enjoy. So definitely make sure to stay tuned in over there. If you guys want to find more of me, you can follow me on Twitter at mtorresports, that name right there on your screen. Also, go on over to YouTube where you can find this episode. It will be uploaded at some point. It takes forever to upload. I'm working on that, but go over to my YouTube channel at Oregon Football Max Torres and please subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second out of your day and it's free and it's tremendous help to us. So, with all that being said, that'll do it for me, Max Torres, and Dylan Rubin King, the Ducks Dish podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.